Hi students, this is a small presentation on Ellingham diagrams. Ellingham diagrams are basically graphs which are plotted against two parameters. One is the delta G naught F, that is the standard free energy of formation, and the temperature. Now, why we need them? See, if you want to study the thermal stability of compounds as a function of temperature, we can take any compound, but normally we use oxides and sulfides because we know that in metallurgy, sulfide ores are roasted to get oxides and carbonate ores are calcined to get oxides. So from these oxides you have to take the metal. Now delta G is as a function of temperature if you are trying to plot it. And delta H and delta S are weak functions of temperature. So practical we can consider them as constant. We know that in chemistry we have an equation called delta G is equal to delta H minus T delta S, and this is going to be the parent equation similar to, or F is equal to ma, the Newton's law in physics. If you're going to plot this with this on the y-axis and this on the x-axis, this is the temperature, we get the slope as negative, that is minus delta S. Now, if you're going to take the oxide formation of various elements and we're going to plot them as a function of temperature, let us see what's happening. For simplicity, we'll take only these for this at this time. We'll take only 4 elements. That is zinc, aluminum, magnesium, and of course carbon. Now carbon is a very special case and we'll discuss with you a little bit later. Now you can see that this is, we are trying to do this is the delta G values. Remember, this is negative because the topmost scale starts with 0 here, and because these reactions are more feasible, as we go down the negative value of delta G increases, and we know as the delta G is more and more negative, the reaction is more and more feasible. It is more feasible. The probability of occurrence is very, very high. So if we divide this graph into 2 portions, one in which delta G0 is, we take this delta G0 as one line, and one area that is below the delta G is equal to 0, there is a negative side and the above side. Now since this is oxide formation line, this region where delta G is negative, formation of oxide is possible and oxides are more stable. But above this line, metal is more stable, or the decomposition of oxide is more feasible. I repeat, below this line, oxide is stable and formation of oxide is feasible. Above this line, a decomposition of oxide is stable. Therefore, we can find which oxide will decompose at which temperature. When I come back to this graph, you see that we can theoretically heat every metal oxide to get oxide, because every metal oxide will definitely one temperature will cross this particular line of delta G is equal to 0. Let us take the example of magnesium and aluminum. The curve of magnesium is going like this, starting from minus 200 degrees and going like this. And the curve of aluminum is going like this. Now, the most important point in Ellingham diagram is that the affinity for oxygen, or the formation of the metal, or the formation of oxide which is at the lower side, is more feasible at a given temperature. That is what I mean is at this temperature. Magnesium is below aluminum, therefore Mg to MgO reaction is more feasible because it is more negative. You know, when delta G is negative, the reaction is more feasible. Therefore, at this temperature, magnesium to MgO is more feasible than aluminum to aluminum oxide. Magnesium has more affinity for oxygen. Magnesium can reduce alumina to aluminum. Now with this can happen only up to 1400 Kelvin, because after 1400 Kelvin, this lower metal will reduce oxygen with higher metal. It will start taking revenge. Aluminum will start taking revenge. Now I will reduce to 8 because aluminum is below. Aluminum has got a major affinity for oxygen after this temperature, and therefore it will reduce magnesium. Above 1400 Kelvin, aluminum will reduce MgO to Mg. Below 1400 Kelvin, magnesium will reduce alumina to aluminium. Now again, this is the thermodynamics says. That is the feasibility or the tendency for the reaction to occur is being understood from Ellingham diagram. The kinetics is always there, which will tell how fast the reaction will occur. But this is a thermodynamic concept between organic and physical chemistry. The most important use of this Ellingham diagram is that the metals that have curves at the bottom of the diagram reduce the metal sound more towards the top. Metals that have curves at the bottom of the diagram have more affinity for oxygen, and therefore they will act as a reducing agent. They will undergo oxidation and will reduce the metals that have the curve at the top of the diagram, because they have less affinity for oxygen. And again, the greater the gap, more the spontaneity, because more delta G is negative, more tendency for reduction. What if you can see that the gap at 1800 degrees Kelvin is more compared to the gap at 1400 Kelvin. So if you take the form of a question, to make the reaction following reduction process spontaneous, temperature should be, that is, you can see from this graph that zinc to zinc oxide and carbon to carbon monoxide. At the temperature 1000 degrees, up to 1000 degrees, the zinc line is below carbon line, and therefore the zinc will preferentially gets oxidized. But above 1000 degrees centigrade, carbon monoxide is more stable, and zinc oxide will undergo reduction. So for this reaction, it is because if you see that you're coupling two reactions, C2CO is negative delta G and ZNO to Zn is positive delta G. You're coupling these two reactions to get overall negative delta G. So it's clear from this Ellingham diagram that theoretically you can heat all oxides and get metal, because all oxides at one point of time will pass the zero line and will become more prone for decomposition. But it may require very high temperatures, some may require low temperatures. Therefore we can divide this, you can see from this graph. So theoretically we can heat all metal oxides and get metal out of it by decomposition. So we can divide metal oxides into two categories. Metal oxides with a low decomposition temperature directly heated to give metal, example mercury oxide and silver oxide. And metal oxide with higher temperature were heated with a reducing agent to remove oxygen. And how will you select this reducing agent? The reducing agent is the agent which has a greater tendency to undergo oxidation, and therefore it will be at the bottommost of the curve than the one required to be reduced. Now I just want to take a small diversion here. We remember heating effects of carbonates which we read in S block elements. Anga patamna carbonates are heated to give metal oxides and CO2. We have exceptions like sodium carbonate, potassium carbonate, and rubidium carbonate. One alkali metals on heating there is no effect of heat on heating for these three metals. Calcium, magnesium, lithium carbonate on heating will give metal oxides. There, your teacher would have told you that these two exceptions, silver oxide, silver carbonate, and mercury carbonate, will directly give metal. The reason for that is Ellingham diagram. At low temperatures, they get decomposed directly to give metal and oxygen. So theoretically, you can also reduce iron ore to iron, but to a very high temperature. So if you and we're getting high temperatures of 1500 degrees, we cannot use ordinary methods of heating and all. So we have to go for large amount of reduction with coke, or we call high. They call it as high temperature induction furnaces. So for that, if you're going to spend an amount of rupees 100, say per kilogram, or to get iron, and you're going to get a metal of which cost is only 50, you're not going to be economical. And therefore, it's mainly for the purpose of economics, that is, we are going to go for using reducing agents. So we see that all oxides can be theoretically heated to give metals, and as temperature increases, the tendency of all oxides to get decomposed is more, and therefore the oxide formation curve is always having a slope of going upwards, positive slope, you can see it. There are 2 or 3 points to be noted in the diagram. One is the point where it turns, where the slope is going to change abruptly. It's going to become from positive to more positive. And there are points where the slope is going to become positive, slightly more positive, and exactly more positive. It is because of the entropy of phase transitions. That is, the metal gets liquefied, the metal gets melted at this point. And after this point, it is a liquid metal which is going to get oxidized, not the solid metal. And we know the randomness order. Gases have more randomness or more entropy or more disorder than liquid than solid. And therefore, if you are going to consider a solid reacting with a gas to form another solid, the entropy is going to be negative. The entropy change of delta S for metal oxide formation is negative, because from solid plus gas we are getting solid. The metal oxide is solid, metal is also solid. From a more disordered state or a more entropy state of gas, we are going for a less entropy state of a solid. Slope is always positive, because T delta S is going to be positive. I'll show you this shortly. So delta G value becomes more and more positive, that is, formation of oxide becomes less feasible as stability of oxide decreases. Abrupt change in slope shows a transition or a phase transition. At this point shows melting point of metal. You can understand all these concepts using the greatest reducing agent called carbon. See, carbon has got 3 reactions. Carbon forming with oxygen to form CO2, carbon with oxygen forming CO, and carbon with oxygen forming carbon monoxide with oxygen forming CO2. Remember, in all Bingham diagrams, we take only per mole of oxygen, 1 mole of oxygen, 1 mole of oxygen, 1 mole of oxygen. Okay, and here of course you have delta G naught F. And here you have temperature. See, the slope is going to be always negative for only one reaction, and that is for carbon burning to get carbon monoxide. It is because you're using 1 mole of gas to get 2 moles of gas. Therefore, final minus initial is 2 minus 1. I have done it here. Delta Ng, 2 minus 1 is plus 1 here. So the slope, delta S is positive, slope is negative. There is no slope for this reaction, therefore it is parallel to the x-axis, temperature axis. And for C, it is going to be a positive slope because delta S is negative. See, for C is this line. This is a gas, this is a gas, this is also a gas. So 2 plus 1, 3 moles gives 2 moles. So final minus initial is going to be minus 1. Now when T delta is going to be, when delta S is positive, TdS is positive. TDS is negative. At minus TDS is going to be negative, 0 and positive. Remember this, delta S is positive, T delta S is positive, but minus T delta S is negative. And therefore, when you're going to plot y is equal to mx plus c, it is a plot of delta G against temperature, where the slope is going to be minus delta S. So minus delta S therefore when delta S is positive, slope is negative, and as delta S is negative, slope is positive. Now this is what happens in most of the oxides cases, because you have a solid forming a solid plus gas forming a solid, like this one. C plus O2 gives not C. Metal plus oxygen gives MO2, where you have metal is a solid, gas is oxygen is a gas, and metal oxide is going to be a solid. From a more random state of gas, you are going to go for a less random state, and therefore, for most of cases, delta is going to be negative, and the slope of the curve is going to be positive. Then remember, if the metal is going to get melted, then this will become a liquid, or it's called as a condensed phase. Salts and liquids are called the condensed phase. So the difference in entropy is going to be more, and therefore the curve is going to be more positive, or the curve is going to increase, where we have seen in the case of magnesium is melted here, aluminum is melted here. Okay, zinc here, this is the melting point and this is the boiling point. You can have a very sharp increase in delta G. It become more and more positive. I'm just trying to explain this with small calculation. Suppose delta G is going to be, we're going to find two typical temperatures, delta G1 and delta G2. One at say 2 it is 200. This is 200 degrees or 200 Kelvin, and 300 Kelvin. The delta G1, if you're going to have delta H for this, these are weak functions of temperature, and they're going to be does not change in this particular region, that is from 200 to 300. If these two parameters are not going to change, they'll be substituted here as 300 minus 200. You get minus 400 here, and delta G2 is minus 750. So you find that as delta H is positive, in both cases 3 point plus 3.5 plus 3.5, temperature in delta G becomes more and more negative. So this is possible only for one particular reaction, that is this one. C plus O2 gives 2CO, because as I said, the number of moles is going to be positive, change the number of moles is positive, and only for this particular reaction have a negative slope. For all other oxide formation, it's going to have a positive slope, and because the tendency to decompose is going to get increased slowly till a particular temperature. With this small introduction, let's go through some problems. Let us see how in various entrance examinations. Now this particular question, let us see. We are given this diagram for metals P, Q and R. You can see here P, this is for R, and this is for Q. And you have got three lines for carbon, that is CO to CO2, C to CO2 and C to CO. The question is, oxide of metal which is most difficult to reduce by CO. See, P gets reduced at very high temperature T1. Can you see this T1 is T1 here. This temperature is T1. This is where P gets reduced. Q not feasible to reduce, will never cut and cannot reduce by CO. So because Q is this one. Only up to this temperature it was possible. After this, because the line of CO is above the line of Q, and therefore it is not possible to reduce Q till a particular temperature. See, question is oxidative molecule reduced by CO. So CO is the reducing agent for this. So this is the line for CO. It is reducing agent where CO will be oxidized to CO2 at various temperatures. Now we can see that P, it gets melted, becomes vaporized, or it becomes melted here, becomes gaseous here, it cuts in the vapor phase. So at this temperature T1, P gets melted, gets vaporized, and at this temperature T1, this is going to get cut, and therefore above this temperature CO can use as reducing agent for P. For Q, the line of Q is above CO to CO2 at all temperatures, and therefore it is not possible to reduce Q at all. For R, you can reduce a lower temperature T2. This is T2, this is T1. So you can find that T1 is greater than T2, and therefore with difficulty P will be reduced by CO, and little easily R at lower temperature, and it cannot be reduced. Such conclusions can be easily obtained from Elingham diagram. Again, I'm telling this is thermodynamic feasibility. It's not about the kinetics. So for this particular question is going to be A, where you asked which material is most difficult to reduce. So most difficult is going to be remember, it's asked most difficult to reduce. It's not impossible. If it's asked which is not possible to reduce, the answer is going to be Q. It is not possible to reduce, the answer is going to be Q. But more difficult to reduce is going to be because at a higher temperature. So the wording is very important. It is not. The question is which material is not possible to be reduced by CO, the answer is Q. But the difficulty can reduce P at a higher temperature. Second question is which materials are produced by the gaseous state when reduction of its oxide is possible by carbon. You can easily see that P and Q both will be done in the gaseous phase only, because you see P is got first here melted, become vapor. After that only the element is, this is fully the vapor phase oxidation curve of P, and only at this temperature it is going to get, after it becomes gas. Similarly, if you take R is going to get